Whenever I chat with friends about Caribbean real estate, there's this very specific picture that pops into their heads.
Oh, I can guess what it is.
Right. They immediately think luxury in Jamaica, and what they're picturing is basically selling Sunset, but with the reggae soundtrack.
That is a very vivid image and a very common one.
Totally. They're thinking giant marble floors, infinity pools, maybe a celebrity hiding behind huge sunglasses. And the agent, of course, looks like they just stepped off a runway.
Beverly Hills with palm trees.
That's the phrase. And it's such a seductive idea.
It is. But if you actually try to apply that Hollywood lens to the Jamaican market, you are going to crash and burn. I mean, you'll completely miss the point of what's really valuable there.
Exactly. And that is why I am so excited about the source material we're getting into today. We are unpacking a guide from Jamaica Homes. It was just published this January 2026. It's called Redefining Luxury Real Estate Success in Jamaica.
And its mission is, well, it's pretty blunt.
It really is. It basically tells everyone to stop trying to be American, stop selling flash, because real luxury in Jamaica is it's operating on a completely different frequency.
It really is. The core argument here is fascinating. It says success isn't about speed or, aggressive sales tactics.
Or your TikTok following?
Or your TikTok following, exactly. It's about cultural intelligence. It's about understanding that land in Jamaica isn't just a commodity. It carries memory.
Land carries memory. I love that. It sounds more like a line from a novel than a real estate guide.
It's a profound idea, isn't it? And the source really builds on that. It quotes the founder of Jamaica Homes, Dean Jones, who says, "Luxury in Jamaica isn't excess, it's intention."
Intention. Okay, let's unpack that, because usually when we talk luxury, especially in the US or Europe, we are talking about excess.
Right. More, bigger, shinier.
Exactly. More square footage, more gold fixtures.
Yeah.
But this guide is saying, no, you need to pivot.
Completely. It's asking agents to reframe their entire mindset. It says luxury is not a price point, it's a standard.
The standard.
Yes. And in Jamaica, that standard is often much quieter than people expect. It's not about screaming, "Look at me." It's about privacy, resilience, harmony with the land.
Which brings us to this huge myth the guide tries to dismantle right at the start.
The born into it myth.
Yes. This idea that to sell those big properties in, say, Norbrook or Trial, you have to have the right family name.
The right prep school, the right accent, that old social club vibe.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the source just hits back so hard on this. It says that whole idea just keeps good, talented people locked out of the industry.
It does. And the counter-argument is actually really empowering. It says luxury agents are built, they're not inherited.
So you can learn the codes.
You can absolutely learn the codes. But, and this is the big catch, you have to be willing to make some internal shifts first. You can't just walk in and expect to succeed without recalibrating how you think.
Okay, let's walk through those shifts, because they're not just work harder, they're psychological. The first one is positivity without denial. Now, that sounds a little like corporate self-help. What does it actually mean on the ground?
It's actually very practical. Look, in a developing market, things go wrong. Roads have potholes. The title's office can be agonizingly slow.
That's just a fact of life.
It is. Positivity without denial means you don't pretend those problems don't exist. You don't gaslight your client.
So you acknowledge the hurdle.
You acknowledge it. Yes, the power grid can fluctuate here, but you don't dramatize it. You offer the solution. You say, yes, the power fluctuates, which is why this home has a full solar array and a backup generator.
You're the shock absorber.
You have to be. You absorb the stress so they don't have to. The second shift is abundance thinking. And this is, I think, even harder in a small market.
Because Jamaica's small. Everyone knows everyone.
And everyone knows everyone's business. So it's very easy to slip into that scarcity thinking, that fear of, if I don't close this deal right now, I won't eat.
Right. Desperation.
And the guide warns that desperation has a scent. High net worth clients are incredibly sensitive to it. If you seem thirsty, if you push too hard, they will just ghost you.
And your reputation travels faster than your marketing.
Oh, much faster. Which leads to the third shift, emotional intelligence. The guide says luxury clients will often test you before they trust you.
How do they test you? Is it like a quiz on the property details?
It's usually much more subtle than that. It can be silence or vagueness. They might give you a really loose brief just to see if you actually listen.
Or if you just start throwing your most expensive listings at them.
Exactly. If a client says they want peace and you show them a penthouse in a noisy business district just because it's expensive, you've failed the test. You stopped listening.
Okay, so assuming an agent has that mindset down, they still need to know the product.
Yeah.
And this was my favorite part of the guide. The X factors.
Ah,
Because a standard listing sheet just gives you bedrooms, bathrooms, price. But the guide says that's not the whole story. A $1.5 million house in one part of Jamaica is a totally different animal from one somewhere else.
it's all about the hyper-local nuances. The guide compares a property in trial
Which is that ultra-exclusive resort-style living.
versus a penthouse in, say, Kingston 6A
The urban business hub.
versus a cliffside villa out in Portland.
Which is lush, wild, romantic.
Right. You cannot sell them the same way. The trial buyer wants total ease. The golf cart, the security. The Kingston buyer needs proximity to the financial district, high-speed internet.
And the Portland buyer.
The Portland buyer is the wild card. They're not looking for convenience. They're looking for something spiritual. They want the rain. They want the jungle.
Yeah.
A Kingston sales pitch just won't land there.
And this gets us into the unphotographable assets. I love that term. The value drivers that don't show up on Instagram.
This is where the agent truly earns their commission. The guide lists things like breeze flow.
Which, to someone in a cold climate, might sound trivial.
Well, it's windy. Who cares? But in the Caribbean, understanding cross-ventilation is a technical skill. It's the difference between a comfortable home and an oven.
A very expensive oven.
A very expensive oven. A great agent can walk into a room and say, okay, the prevailing wind comes from the northeast here, and these jalousie windows are perfectly positioned to capture it.
It shows the house is resilient. It's not just a glass box that costs a fortune to cool.
And speaking of resilience, we have to talk about water and power.
Not sexy topics.
Not sexy at all. You don't put a picture of a 1,000-gallon water tank on the brochure, but the guide is adamant. Practical resilience is the ultimate luxury in Jamaica.
Does it have its own water storage? A backup generator?
And an automatic transfer switch. These are the real questions. The guide connects this to the season of recovery after Hurricane Melissa, which I thought was a crucial detail.
It's the reality check.
It is. Because when a storm hits, all the marble countertops in the world don't matter if you don't have power or water.
And there's that brilliant line from Dean Jones in the guide.
In Jamaica, the most valuable feature of a property is often the one that doesn't photograph well: peace of mind.
Peace of mind. That's it. That's knowing your house will keep running when the grid goes down.
And there's another unphotographable asset that's just as important: legal clarity.
Oh, this is a big one.
It's massive because, as we said, land carries memory. You have multi-generational family land, different types of titles. A property might look perfect, but if there's an old ownership dispute,
It's a liability, not an asset.
a huge one. A good agent needs to know how to spot those red flags. A clean, undisputed title is worth more than a swimming pool. You're selling certainty.
So let's talk about explaining the house itself. The guide talks about the language of design.
This is about fluency. You don't need to be an architect, but you have to understand why a building works.
What's a common mistake agents make here?
Well, they might mix up colonial and contemporary Caribbean. They see old versus new, but a luxury agent understands the function.
Like passive cooling.
Exactly. Colonial architecture had deep verandas and high ceilings for a reason, to keep the sun off the walls and let heat rise. Then you see these Miami modern glass boxes going up.
They look great in a photo.
But they're a nightmare to cool. A good agent can point to a roof overhang and explain, see how that protects the living room from the afternoon sun. That builds incredible trust.
It shows you understand the experience of living there.
And materials, too. The salt air in Jamaica is aggressive. So if you can point out these railings are marine-grade aluminum, not just painted steel, you're telling the buyer, this home was built to last.
There's a great line in the guide about this. A client might forget the listing price, but they will remember if the agent truly understood their home.
It's that emotional intelligence again. You're validating their asset, showing respect for the build.
Okay, let's shift to branding. This is where I think that selling Sunset Influence is most toxic.
The agent is influencer.
Yes, but this guide waves a huge red flag. It says, loud branding often reads as insecurity.
And that is such a specific, important cultural read for Jamaica. In LA, maybe loud works. In Jamaica, discretion is the currency of the elite.
Right. They value privacy above everything else.
So if you're too flashy to, look at me, they recoil. They're wondering if their business is about to become content for your Instagram.
They don't want to be your content. They want to be your client.
Exactly. So good branding should be calm, competent. Your headshot should say, trusted advisor, not reality TV star.
And there was a line A witty truth in the guide that I loved. A luxury client can forgive a slow response, but not a sloppy one.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's all about professionalism. A quick, typo-filled reply makes you look reactive and thoughtless.
But a considered comprehensive answer, even if it takes a few hours.
That commands respect. It shows you're thoughtful.
The guide also has great advice for newer agents. It calls it strategic alignment.
This is so important. The ego trap is wanting to keep 100% of the commission on a small deal.
So you go solo and you stay at the bottom.
Right. The guide says, find a top developer or a top agent. Align with them. Take a smaller slice of a much bigger pie.
It's not humble pie, it's tuition.
It's tuition. You're buying access and mentorship. You're borrowing their credibility until you've built your own. It's the long game.
And luxury is all about the long game.
It's the only game that works.
So we have the mindset, the knowledge, the brand. Now, the million-dollar question. Where do you find the clients? Or how do they find you? The guide makes this great distinction between networking and belonging.
Yes, this is the sociology of it, and it's my favorite part. Networking is transactional. It's walking into a room, scanning for targets, trying to pitch them.
It's hunting, and nobody wants to be hunted.
Nobody. Belonging is totally different. It's about shared values. The guide suggests specific places for this. Faith spaces, art galleries, heritage events, real charity initiatives.
Places where you're there for the cause, not the commission.
Exactly. You meet people in a human context. You build trust organically. So when real estate eventually comes up, you're not a salesperson. You're the person they already know and respect.
The person who understands the land and respects the story.
And that's key. The guide even says that when you're starting out, your process on a small listing has to be excellent.
Wait, explain that. Why does the owner of a $5 million estate care how I sell a small apartment?
Because they're watching. They want to see how you handle the product. Is the lighting perfect? Is the description honest? If you treat a small listing with the respect of a palace, the luxury seller thinks, that's who I want handling my property.
So every listing is an audition.
Every single one. Your process is your calling card.
I want to circle back to the context we touched on earlier, that season of recovery.
I think that's what makes this guide so timely.
We aren't just talking about theory. We're talking about a market that has seen what climate disruption really means. So when we say intention is the new luxury, that's not just a metaphor.
It's a survival strategy. The recovery after Hurricane Melissa has, well, it's stripped away the veneer. It's shown that a beautiful house that falls apart in a storm isn't luxury, it's waste.
So the agents who are going to win are the ones who can speak to that resilience.
The ones who understand that a well-built retaining wall is more important than a fancy chandelier. The ones who can look a client in the eye and say, this home is safe, it was built with intention.
That is the ultimate value proposition.
It is. It changes the job from sales to stewardship.
Stewardship, that's the
If
word.
you're a steward of the land and a steward of the client's trust, it's not easy. It's hard work.
It's definitely harder than just putting on a nice suit and pointing at a view.
Much harder. But it's the only way to build a legacy that actually lasts.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've kind of dismantled that whole Beverly Hills myth. We've established that in Jamaica, luxury is intention. But here's the question I want to leave you with.
Go for it.
In a world that is so obsessed with selling the dream, with filters and hype, are you brave enough to stop selling and just start understanding the land you stand on? Because according to this guide, that's the only real way to own the market.
And maybe the only way to help build a more resilient Jamaica.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.